Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Nile Cruise. I'm Ahmed Nader and today I will be partnered by Dina Hussein. Hello Dina.
Hello Ahmed, welcome to all our viewers who's going to be joining us in this edition of Nile Cruise. And before we start off, let us extend our deepest condolences to all the Christian Egyptians who have undergone losses and a lot of anger and a lot of bad incidents that have happened according to the attacks of the cathedral. We extend our deepest condolences to our brothers, and all the Egyptian citizens are very sad to share the loss with our brothers, the Christian citizens. And we're going to start off this edition of the Nile Cruise with lots of segments.
Yes.
Of course, Ahmed.
Yes. So don't forget to follow us on Nile Cruise, on Nile TV, on Google+, Facebook and Twitter, and of course YouTube. Thank you for watching and stay tuned.
Stay with us.
كنا مش حاسين بقيمة والأمل موضة قديمة، بس في ثانية افتكرنا إن بلادنا دي عظيمة. ارفع راسك انت مصري، انت واحد من اللي نزلوا في الميدان. اسمعكوا، ارفع راسك انت مصري، انت وقفت جنب جارك في اللجان. ارفع راسك انت مصري، انت رجعت المصري بتاع زمان، المصري بتاع زمان. شايف الدنيا بشكل تاني، السما صافية سامع أغاني، واللي اتغير فيا هو طعم الحرية في لساني. ارفع راسك انت مصري، انت واحد من اللي نزلوا في الميدان. ارفع راسك انت مصري، انت وقفت جنب جارك في اللجان. ارفع راسك انت مصري، انت رجعت المصري بتاع زمان، المصري بتاع زمان. مع بعض بيقولوا مصر هرم ونيل، وبينسوا المصري الأصيل اللي ساعة الجد دايما يقدر يعمل مستحيل. ارفع راسك انت مصري، انت واحد من اللي نزلوا في الميدان. ارفع راسك انت مصري، اسمعكوا، انت واحد من اللي نزلوا في الميدان. ارفع راسك انت مصري، انت وقفت جنب جارك في اللجان. ارفع راسك انت مصري،
Welcome back. Egypt's continued political turmoil has made it live in international debt markets, and its government is hoping to secure new funds by less conventional means through the issue of the country's first sovereign Islamic bonds. The draft of the Islamic bonds, or the Sukuk law, includes 26 different articles setting a legal framework for the issuance and transactions of Sukuk in the Egyptian market. The draft allows issuing corporate Sukuk, and banks are also allowed to issue them if the bank's rules permit, and after the approval of the Central Bank of Egypt. And all issuing parties, meanwhile, should choose an Islamic supervision committee which has the jurisdiction to identify the types of sukuk which are complained with the Sharia or the Islamic law. And with us on this issue, we're delighted to have with us Dr. Wlid Shaker, Secretary General of the Egyptian Islamic Finance Association. Hello, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
Hello, Dr. Wlid. So basically, we've been hearing about the sukuks, or the same idea of the definition of it, for the past few months. Would you maybe define it simply for us to be knowing the idea
Sure.
of it?
The sukuk is a new financial instrument that has been introduced in our financial world about 15 years ago, only just 15 years ago. It's just another financial instrument similar to what we know as a bond, a conventional bond, or a stock or a share in a company. Of course, why do we need it? It's a bit different than what a conventional bond is, and also it is different than the shares or the regular stock. A SUC is basically a common share of ownership in a pool of assets, and that pool of assets represents the financing provided by the owner of the SUC. Usually it's in plural, so you have lots of sukuk and a lot of sukuk holders. So those sukuk holders own this pool of assets, and they have provided in exchange for holding the sukuk financing for a project, and therefore that SUC represents common ownership of these sukuk holders in that project.
Yes.
Why is it different than a share, for example, in a company? A company can issue shares, inviting therefore the new shareholders to own part of the entire company, meaning that they own every single, they own common ownership. They have common ownership in every single properties, every single
aspect of the
land,
company
or whatever
itself.
the company has. And at the same time, they also share the liabilities of that company. And the share is normally not limited by time. So you buy a share of X company, you own that share, and you can actually even pass on this share to your heirs in the future.
Yes.
The SUC, unlike the share, is actually limited by time. So it's provided for a limited period of time. It's usually the term of the financing. So the SUC holder or the sukuk holder will only have this ownership for the time of the financing only. At the end of the term of the financing, they will return whatever properties or pool of assets they have in exchange back for their money, the money that they have paid to buy the SUC. So this is a major difference between the SUC and the share.
Yeah.
The difference between the SUC and the bond, the conventional bond, is that the bond represents an obligation on its issuer, right, for the holder of the bond to pay back a specific amount of money plus interest on that money. And it's limited by time as well. So that's what it shares with the SUC. They're both limited by time, but the SUC represents ownership of assets and investment in a project, and that project is subject to profit and loss, whereas the bond itself guarantees a principal and fixed return or variable return sometime on the investment or on the principal amount that was invested by the bondholder.
Yes.
So that's a major difference between these two commonly known instruments and the SUC.
Right. Dr. Higazi, what is the Islamic origin of al-sukuk, and why is all the hassle, from where came all the hassle around the issue of sukuk? Why do you think all that hassle came?
The hassle came because we live in a very difficult time, as we all know now. We have seen it for the last 2 years. We've been going through really political turmoil and a lot of financial difficulties, economic difficulties, and social problems as well. So the sukuk have been subject to a lot of politicization by the different political parties, and was unfortunately, instead of being presented in an objective light to inform the public and let them know that this new instrument, what this new instrument can do for them, whether in their private economic life or in their public economic life. Instead of doing that, it has been used by different political parties, whether the government on one hand and the Islamists on one hand, and the opposition parties on the other hand. I think they both missed the point, and they tried to argue from their own perspective why the sukuk could be used in favor of the government and against the interests of the public. That's from the opposition party, and the government tried to show the sukuk as really the magical solution to all our problems, and that's not also true. Sukuk cannot really help you if you have all these huge economic problems and issues and the underlying economic issues that we have right now. No one is going to invest in sukuk or any other financial instrument for this reason if we continue to have these problems. So it was wrong to present sukuk as the solution, and it was wrong to present sukuk as a way, for example, to privatize the public assets of the country, and to privatize the public whatever left in the public sector.
Yes.
Both were really wrong. Sukuk is not a new invention. We are not inventing sukuk. It has been used, as I said, by Western countries before Islamic countries in the last 15 years or so. It is a financial instrument that addresses the need for Sharia compliant alternatives to an existing Western known instrument. It is known as securitization. In the West, instead of borrowing directly from the bank, you can borrow through issuing securities. And these securities represent, as I said, ownership in bonds that represent a financing or a loan at the end, borrowed by a specific entity or a government.
But are there interests? Sorry, Ahmed. Are there any
against,
interests?
Yeah, against interest, of course. The Sharia compliant sukuk, or the sukuk, basically is the alternative or equivalent of that, but from a Sharia compliant perspective or from an Islamic perspective. So it's not a new invention. It has been used. The two countries that the most used the sukuk in the past are the UAE and Malaysia. Both countries have